morning. Thank God it's Friday. Today is November 21, 2025. My name is Winifred Weber, your host on the program Inside Nigeria, your breakfast show on Leadership Television. Without wasting much time, we'll head up to the newspaper corner where we have newspaper review. And of course, we like to start off with Nigeria's foremost Friday newspaper, Leadership Friday. As to be expected, leadership and other papers we have on our lineup, including other national papers today in Nigeria, they are talking about the trial and conviction of the IPOB leader, Nnamdi Kanu, the sentencing to life imprisonment yesterday by Federal High Court in Abuja. Of course, that's what the papers are leading with today, Friday. Leadership is no exception. Let's go to leadership and see what the headline is all about. Taking a cue from that leading story, Leadership Friday says mixed reactions to Nnamdi Kanu's life sentence. That story runs on page 4 of Leadership Friday. Let's go to page 4 of Leadership and take some excerpts from that leading story. Mixed reactions to Nnamdi Kanu's life sentence. Reactions have continued to trade the life sentence a court meted out on the leader of the Biafra Nation agitator, Nnamdi Kanu. Kanu, the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, was sentenced to life imprisonment for acts of terrorism. Acts of terrorism carry a death sentence, but Justice James Omotosho in his judgment said he chose to impose life imprisonment on Kanu because of the attitude of the global community to the death sentence. The Federal High Court in Abuja sentenced Kanu shortly after delivering his final judgment in the 7-count charges brought against him by the federal government. The judge said although Kanu was a militant, unremorseful, and exhibited unruly behavior since 2015, he was mindful of being lenient with him. Apart from the life imprisonment, the radio transmitter Kanu unlawfully brought into the country was ordered to be forfeited to the federal government along with other equipment. The judge said that because of Kanu's violent nature, he should be made to serve the jail term in protective custody in any part of the country. Before the court read out his judgment after he was convicted of the crime, the federal government had demanded the imposition of a death sentence on Kanu following his conviction on terrorism charges. Counsel for the federal government, Adegboyega Awomolo, SAN, told the court that the sections of the law under which Kanu was charged and convicted carried a death sentence without any option. Addressing the court after the conviction was pronounced, the senior lawyer stated that the court had no discretion but to impose the maximum punishment on him in line with the dictates of the law. Excerpts from the leading story on today's Friday newspaper. Mixed reactions to Nnamdi Kanu's life sentence. Of course, the pronouncement was made by the Federal High Court in Abuja, which obviously will be appealed, and the case will move on to Court of Appeal, and from there, move there to the Supreme Court. Anyway, leadership also has a Nnamdi Kanu trial timeline. Let's just take some excerpts from Nnamdi Kanu's trial timeline. Kanu rose from obscurity to public consciousness in 2009 through broadcasts on his London-based Radio Biafra, popular among Southeast listeners. He was arrested and renditioned to Nigeria from Kenya on 19 June 2021. On 17 October 2015, Kanu was reportedly arrested in Lagos by the DSS though he later claimed the arrest occurred on 14 October. It was arranged on 23 November 2015. Kanu was granted bail on 19 October 2016. IPOB said that despite being granted bail, he was not released. He was rearranged on November 8, 2016, before Justice Binta Anyanko at the Federal High Court, Abuja. Kanu was initially charged with 6 counts, later amended to an 11-count charge of terrorism, treasonable felony, managing an unlawful society, and publication of defamatory matter. The trial of Kanu and 3 associates commenced on 10 January 2017 at the Federal High Court in Abuja. The trial was heavily guided and shielded from the public. Kanu was granted bail on health grounds on 28 April 2017 and released after perfecting his bail conditions. He spent 18 months in Kuje prison. The Nigerian government judicially proscribed IPOB as a terrorist organization on 20 September 2017. After Kanu was accused of jumping bail, Justice Nyako revoked his bail on 28 March 2019 and ordered his arrest. A court hearing fixed for 26 November 2020 saw both Kanu and his lawyer Ifeanyi Ejiofor absent. Kanu was repatriated from Kenya in June 2021. The Federal High Court sitting ordered the federal government to produce him. Of course, these are excerpts from today's leading story on Leadership Friday, which also is the leading story in all the papers, national papers, that is, we have on our lineup this Friday. We just took some excerpts from that leading story. We go ahead to the cover and complete other stories on the cover. Nigerian bishop testifies before U.S. Congress on alleged Christian genocide, seeks action. That story is also on page 7 of Leadership Friday. It's a developing story. Yesterday it was broadcast live while Congress was hearing reports of a Nigerian delegation and even some of the victims of the alleged genocide in Benue State. We move to the page 3 of Leadership Friday for our stand. Today's stand is on still on the kidnapping epidemic. Still on the kidnapping epidemic. We will also take some excerpts from today's stand. Like I always mentioned, the leadership's stand is actually the editorial, and that is the view of the collective view of the newspaper for the day. Every other paper has editorial, their stand every day. And today's stand, the view of Leadership Friday this Friday, is on still on the kidnapping epidemic. Let's take some excerpts from that stand. Christmas is around the corner, and for many Nigerians who usually travel to their hometowns to celebrate with family and friends and attend other social functions, there is a gnawing fear about whether they can make the journey and return home safely and intact. This is because such movements have become riskier these days owing to the danger posed by kidnappers in the country, many of whom operate along the highways. Sadly, kidnapping for ransom and other sinister purposes has become an endemic crime in Nigeria. In fact, one report states that Nigeria has one of the highest rates of kidnapping for ransom in the world. It shares unenviable company with Venezuela, Mexico, Yemen, Syria, the Philippines, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia in this regard. We'll move towards the conclusion of the stand. That is the stand in the stand. In our opinion, the police and other security agencies are not doing enough to prevent kidnappings or to rescue those abducted. This lackadaisical posture of the police can only embolden the criminals. As a newspaper, we state that since the military has assumed the frontline role in combating terrorism, the police should take it as an ultimate responsibility to roll back the rampant cases of kidnapping in Nigeria. Its present lethargy is not acceptable. As is customary with security agencies, the Christmas period is a time when they step up their operations to ensure a smooth celebration. We urge them to redouble their efforts, especially in districts notorious for kidnappings. Beyond this season, the police, in collaboration with other security agencies, must come up with a workable action plan to end the menace of kidnapping for ransom in the country. Today's stand in Leadership newspaper. From our stand, we go to the back page of Leadership this Friday, where we have, as usual, conversation with Azu. Azu Isehone is the editor-in-chief and senior vice chairman of Leadership newspaper group. His conversation today is on, of course, the National Guild of Editors, the fallout of the National Guild of Editors meeting in Abuja. He's writing on editors and the missing part of Uzodima's trust story. Editors and the missing part of Uzodima's trust story. We'll take quote from that conversation. Uzodima was right about the need for the media to take a long, hard look at itself. On the matter of trust, however, the facts are more nuanced than were portrayed in the governor's paper. Quote from today's conversation with Azu Isehone. We'll also take another quote from that column. Why trust in public institutions and the media has declined worldwide? The level of public trust in Nigeria's media has increased significantly since 2021, reaching not only its highest point so far, but also the highest in the world. Quote from today's conversation with Azu Isehone, and today's conversation is on editors and the missing part of Uzodima's trust story. Before we leave the back page, let's visit Ghana Must Go. In the news, Nigerian government begins training for 50 senators, rep members on how to negotiate with US. And of course, Ghana must go replied, cash out. Cash out. That's Ghana must go. It's on that note we conclude today's review of Leadership Friday. For more, visit the website www.leadership.ng. We move ahead to the next paper on our lineup this Friday, and that is The Punch. The Punch says life jail for Kanu. Southeast leaders rally for political solution. Kanu to appeal judgment. Igbo elites to meet Tinubu. How Kanu sparked courtroom chaos before life sentence. Alleged genocide, U.S. Congress split over Nigeria's CPC designation. That story is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Obafemi Awolowo's grandson, Segun, dies at 62, is what is sad news this Friday or yesterday when it broke out. May the soul of the departed rest in peace. Auditor General indicts CBN over recycled 29.7 billion naira dirty banknotes. Ondo madman stabs NSCDC personnel to death. Tinubu governors celebrate Jonathan at 68. And there's an editorial just beneath the masthead of the Punch. Major win for Nestor as court leaves asset freeze in alleged $1 billion debt dispute. Revokes alleged indefinite Mareva orders, restores control of assets to Nest Oil, receiver manager to withdraw immediately from continued occupation of premises, affirms statutory power of chief judge to assign cases. That's an editorial, of course, also a developing story that the assets of Nestor Oil was frozen. That was reported about a month ago. Lastly, on the cover of the Punch newspaper, heavy ransom bandits demand 3 billion naira to free Kwara church goers. That story is on page 24 of the Punch newspaper. And that also brings to a close the review of front headline stories on the Punch this Friday. For more, log into the website of the Punch newspaper. Vanguard is next on our lineup. Vanguard says terrorism caught Jays Kanu for life. Caught Jays Kanu for life. Vanguard's leading story to forfeit the Biafra radio transmitter to the federal government says his broadcast incited killings, destruction. Justice in Nigeria not for Southeast Abaribe. Indigbo imprisoned for life is Senate President Wagbara. Nigeria has different laws for Southeast Igbo women. There's a double standard. Oh no, these are reactions to the life sentence imposed on Kanu yesterday by Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court. Beneath that leading story, outrage over World Cup ouster, time to kick out NFF, and that story is on page 13 of Vanguard. Outrage over World Cup ouster, time to kick out NFF. This story is on page 13 of Vanguard. Don't forget to read on that leading story. Segun Awolowo is dead. May his soul rest in peace. Lagos raises 244.8 billion naira bonds for infrastructure. ATA responsible for Akwa Ibom's increased allocation. Jonathan. National interest. Anya, Aganga, Akande, others chart way forward for Nigeria. Atop the masthead of Vanguard, Nigeria's entrepreneurship index rises to 0.47 points, according to reports. As Congressman Riley meets Ribadu security chiefs in Washington, U.S. Congress highlights alleged Christian genocide in Nigeria. Eruku Church attack, pattern of targeted violence now clear, coming from the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN. And that brings to a close the review of front headline stories on Vanguard this Friday. Log into the website of Vanguard for continuation of those headline stories. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Of course, as to be expected, we have the picture of later Olusegun Awolowo gracing the cover of Nigerian Tribune. This family owns Nigerian Tribune. Grandson of Obafemi Awolowo, Olusegun Awolowo, is dead. May his soul rest in peace. U.S. Congress hosts public hearing on Nigeria as country of particular concern. The story is on page 2 of Nigerian Tribune. Nnamdi Kanu to appeal as court jails him for life. Also leading story on Nigerian Tribune. WAEC shifts full CBT exam to 2027. CBT's computer-based test to 2027 rewards 15-year-old Osun State student who emerged WASC best overall nationwide. Kwara Church kidnappers demand 100 million naira each, 100 million naira ransom on each victim. Court orders school closure in 5 LGAs. And that brings to a close the review of front headline stories on Nigerian Tribune this Friday. For more, log in to the website of Nigerian Tribune. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Daily Sun. Daily Sun says family group kick as Nnamdi Kanu gets life imprisonment. Convicted on all 7 counts. We appeal judgment, says legal consultant. Southeast expected the sentencing. Abari Bay, all hope not lost. Reps Deputy Speaker. 2 in 3 Nigerian children live in multi-dimensional poverty, coming from UNICEF. 2 in 3 Nigerian children live in multi-dimensional poverty, UNICEF. Nigeria really disgraced nation, overwhelmed by insecurity. Peter Obi. Tinubu mesmerized by challenges, says ADC. Schoolgirls abduction. Tinubu orders Matawale to relocate to Kebbi. APC governor seek urgent rescue. Moves by international actors, interest groups to label Nigeria country of religious intolerance troubling, coming from the federal government. We move towards the masthead of Daily Sun this Friday. Insecurity. Senate vows to restore normalcy in Southeast. Leaders demand end to open grazing. Lastly, on the cover of Daily Sun, and it's the last story beside the masthead of Daily Sun, Kwara short schools in 5 local government areas over bandits attacks. Afenifere expresses shock over terrorist attacks. That story continues on page 28 of Daily Sun, and that also concludes review of front headline stories on Daily Sun this Friday. For more, log in to the website of Daily Sun. Well, viewers, we've come to the end of today's breakfast show on Leadership Television, where we review some trending news stories on some selected national newspapers, including Nigeria's most influential Leadership Friday. For more, don't forget to log into the website of Friday. Until we come your way again, same time next week, Monday, for another fresh edition of the program. Here's wishing you a beautiful weekend ahead. Don't also forget to join us on this station for news on the hour. Thanks for joining us once again. My name is Winifred Weber.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast.